Hey everyone, Steven here, and welcome to my little library of horrors. Well, it's March, and March is officially Women of Horror Month, where we take a look at some of the books written by women in the world of horror literature. So I'm actually kind of surprised to see just how many women, have decided to take a stab at the world of the macabre. And if I'm going to be totally honest, some of my favorite horror books are written by women. So I'm really excited to go ahead and share those with you, as well as share some other books that I haven't yet read, but I'm excited to dive into and, see what they're all about. So what better place to start than at the very beginning with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I apologize for the terrible lighting in here. It's one of those overcast days where, my lighting is going to constantly fluctuate because the lighting in the library is terrible as it is. And I can't change the light because it's one of those, LED light things that you can't just change a bulb on. And I'm not paying someone, God knows however much money to come and fix that. So, again, I apologize, but I will do my best. So I believe I read Frankenstein about 2 years ago, I want to say. And I genuinely enjoyed it overall. I think it was really interesting to sort of see Frankenstein's monster's original character, to see, outside of the mumbling, meandering monster we sort of come to know and love from the movies. It was really interesting to see just how he came about having a conscience and learning to speak language and learning what he wants as a living being. It was great. I really enjoyed it. I guess the one nitpick I really genuinely had with the book would be near the end, where Frankenstein's monster delves into this gigantic monologue about, what he's been up to since he escaped and everything. And, obviously, like I said, I appreciate getting that aspect, from his side of the story. But I think it should have been more of a conversation to sort of keep my interest. Like, I just think gigantic monologues are really boring to me. Like, I'm just picturing somebody standing there watching this person talk to them going, and it doesn't really keep me super engaged. But, overall, like I said, I really enjoyed the book. And, it was the stepping stone to many other wonderful books of horror by women. Speaking of which, coming out about, let's see, what was Frankenstein? Was Frankenstein 1818, I think? So it's 2838. So coming about 70 years later, we have The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I believe this was published in 1881. And it was basically written about Charlotte's unfortunate journey to recovering from postpartum depression. And I think this was one of the very first horror books I read outside of Stephen King when I had, decided to start reading again in my early 20s. And I really want to go back to it now because while I enjoyed it back then, I think I would get a much better appreciation and understanding for the content now being a stay-at-home father and, truly understanding the feelings of isolation and being inside of a house constantly. So I definitely want to go ahead and read this one again. But I really enjoyed it. It was definitely really interesting to sort of see, sort of maybe not the first, but some of the earliest instances of psychological horror being written. So, yeah, definitely worth checking out if you haven't picked this one up. Let's see. Next up, we have what is often hailed as one of the best haunted house stories ever written. I haven't gotten to it yet, so I'm excited to. We have The House Next Door by Anne Rivers Siddons. So yeah, like I said, I haven't read this one yet, but I personally absolutely love the haunted house subgenre within horror. It's one of my favorites. So I'm really excited to go ahead and dive into this one. Let's see. Next up, we have The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. Again, haven't read this one, but I often hear Jennifer McMahon being praised as a wonderful writer, especially within horror. And I've heard some pretty good things about The Winter People, so I'm definitely excited to go ahead and check this one out as well. Oh, look at that. West Hall, Vermont. Right in my home state. So yeah, this is definitely going to be one to have to go and check out very soon. Let's see. Let me see if I can just get a little bit of better lighting. There we go. So next up we're going to have Doll's Eyes by Barry Wood. Very creepy cover. I actually have a few books by Barry Wood. I actually wasn't even sure if the author was male or female. Just, you know, the name Barry apparently is unisex. I didn't know that. So, you know, with this spelling. So, yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and switch it up to a book that I have read. And that's going to be Class Trip by Bebe Foss Rice. Beautiful cover. So, I actually reviewed Class Trip up on the channel, if you want to go ahead and check that out. I'll go ahead and leave a link down below with a playlist of all my book reviews, if you guys want to go ahead and check out anything I've reviewed that I've showcased in the video here. I'll make sure to make note of it if I have. But, Class Trip was a lot of fun. It's essentially a tale about a group of kids who go out, a group of high schoolers who go on a class trip to this island out in the middle of a lake when suddenly, apparently they're being stalked by a killer. And as the group starts to get picked off one by one, the mystery of the killer starts to unravel. And, man, what a good twist this story has. Like, the thing that I really enjoyed about it is that it's a young adult book, but it doesn't feel like it a lot of the time. There's definitely some instances where it kind of dips down in maturity level, I guess, you know, as far as like dialogue goes and actions taken. But again, you also have to take into consideration that these are teenagers and they're going to do stupid things and say stupid things. But like I said, this was a story that genuinely kept my interest the whole way through and never felt like I was reading a young adult book. So this year, I absolutely plan on reading the sequel, and we'll have it reviewed up during the fall this year. So I'm super excited to check that out. I really hope it's just as good as this one. Okay, next we have Blood Ties by Karen E. Taylor. Again, one I haven't read, but apparently it's part of a trilogy. Apparently. I could be wrong, but it almost looks like Geralt from The Witcher up there on the cover. Next we have Women of Darkness by Catherine Tasic. Or however you pronounce her last name. I will never ever know how to pronounce her last name. I guess I should just Google it real quick when I get a second, so I don't constantly butcher the poor woman's name. But, yeah, what better book to pick up during Women's Horror Month than Women of Darkness, a whole collection of horror short stories written by and collected by women. I definitely want to check this one out. Let's see who some of the authors are in here. Let's see. We have Kit Reed, Patricia Russo, Lisa Tuttle, very nice, Elizabeth Massey, funny, and you'll see why. Let's see. Lucy Taylor. Ooh, Tanith Lee. Wendy Webb. Sharon Epperson. Yeah. Some pretty interesting names in here. A lot I'm not familiar with, a few that I am. But I guess that's one of the wonderful things about collecting anthologies and things like that. You discover new authors that you've never heard of. So definitely going to check this out very soon. Next up, we have Welcome Back to the Night by Elizabeth Massey. So it was just funny to see her name in the collection like that, because it looks like the story she wrote was from 1988, and this, I believe, is like 1999. So maybe not as, even saying like 2001 to 2002 is current. Like, we're freaking 25 years past that year now. So, I don't know what you want to call it. I guess not quite vintage, maybe more in the retro era. But yeah, this looks really interesting. I love the cover. Alrighty, next we have The Mirror by Marlies Milheiser. Very nice vintage painting art. Love how the frame of the mirror is like a bunch of hands together. That's really cool. Next, we'll go with Moonfall by Tamara Thorne. Pretty cool cover. I actually have another book by her called Eternity, which sounds really interesting. It seems like it's a young adult small town horror book. So I definitely want to check that out as well. Again, next to haunted houses, small town horror is absolutely one of my favorite subgenres, so definitely going to check that out as well. All right, next we have The Bones by Sherry S. Tepper. Very awesome cover. I love that. I also love the color scheme as well. It's like this very bluish green color that I really like. Just something different, something out of the ordinary you see, when browsing a bookstore or the shelves or something. So definitely interesting to see that. All right, next we have The Whipping Boy by Beth Holmes. Very eerie cover. Like, I don't know, it just kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies when I look at it. It's got some step-back art here in the back. Very John Wayne Gacy-ish here. Or even, for the Paramore fans out there, this seems a lot like Hayley Williams' last album, not Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party. The heck was it? I can't remember it, but she's got, her teeth and makeup on, all stuff like that. But my wife loves her, so that's the only reason I even know any of that stuff. But yeah, this looks pretty interesting. Which is actually funny because I think, am I even close enough to get it here? Yeah, actually there is another book titled Whipping Boy by John Byrne here, or Byrne, however you want to say it. So definitely kind of interesting. Just to see, two titles with the same name. Here we go. All right, next we have Winter Chill by Joanne Fluke. Beautiful cover. Absolutely love this cover. This is another book I read, I think, last year. I do have it reviewed up on the channel. But Winter Chill tells the story of a couple who unfortunately lose their daughter in a terrible snowmobile accident. The father is paralyzed from the legs down, and while his wife is trying to keep things together, she essentially starts unraveling mentally as she believes she is receiving letters from her deceased daughter from the dead. While this is going on, other children within the town are slowly being murdered. So And her husband, who is paralyzed from the waist down, is having dreams of walking and running. And when he wakes up, his legs are sore as if he had been running and walking miles. So it's a really interesting kind of horror slash mystery book that that I enjoyed. So yeah, if you want more of my full thoughts, definitely go check out the review up on the channel. All right, next we have The Night Stalker by Carol Davis Luce. Definitely a nice cover. A little too dark, if I'm going to be honest. Excuse me. I think like the hue of the blue kind of makes it a little hard to see some of the finer details within the cover. So, but yeah, this was a recent acquisition for me. So I'm not familiar with the author or the book. So. Next we have one of my absolute personal gems in my collection, which is Isobel by Jane Parkhurst. And I will never pass up a chance to share this beautiful cover art. But yeah, again, one I have yet to read. I don't know why. I've wanted this book ever since I saw it in Paperbacks from Hell. This was, I knew, like, the book I had to have in my collection, so I genuinely don't know why I haven't read it, but I'm going to change that this year. Next up, we have Night Cries by Barbara Steiner. Very cool cover. Really, really awesome. Alright. I believe this is also in the young adult category. It's only about 130 pages, so does look good though. Alright, next we have Ghost House by Claire McNally. Love the cover of her Ghost House series. They're always so cool. Very unsettling. I also have, I think, 2 other books by her. I know I have Stage Fright. I can't remember what the other one is called, but again, another series I do plan on getting to eventually, because it does look really good. Next, we have Tender Prey by Patricia Roberts. Again, very unsettling cover. I would probably assume this may fall a little more into possibly the true crime genre. Possibly more like the detective story, but it does have elements of horror in it, so I did want to toss it in here. All right. Next, we have The Devil's Reign by Maud Willis. Beautiful, beautiful cover. I know this was originally made as a film, and I believe this is the novelization of the book. But, yeah, absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous cover. Maud Willis is actually a pseudonym for, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but apparently she's written under 6 different names, so both male and female, so I'm glad I did a little bit of research before adding this one into the pile, so yeah, definitely pretty cool. I can't wait to check that one out. All right, next we have The Haunting of Villa Gabriel by, who is it here? Clarissa Ross. Delving in a little bit into the gothic horror here. Next up, we have one of the absolute juggernauts, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to women authors in horror. In my opinion, the true vampire queen of horror, and that is Chelsea Quinn Yarborough's Beast Nights. The only works I have read by Chelsea Quinn Yarborough it was a short story in Charles L. Grant's Horrors, and what was the other one? It was a vampire story. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, I love Chelsea's work. I think she's a brilliant writer. She does a fantastic job of making very real characters, wonderful plot twists. And she just has like a wide variety of themes to choose from within her works. There's Messages from Michael. She actually wrote the original Hotel Transylvania. There is False Dawn that she wrote, which is like sort of this werewolf apocalypse story. So yeah, big shout out to Chelsea Quinn Yarborough for, again, helping pave the way for women in horror. I absolutely recommend going and checking out any of her work. Next we have With Friends Like These by Liza Fosberg. Really wonderful cover, honestly. Beautiful cover. And a very, very rare original blurb from... I shouldn't say original blurb from the original V.C. Andrews. It was very, very, very rare to see any kind of endorsement from V.C. Andrews, the original author, back in the day. So I'm very excited to add this little piece to my collection. Next, we have Linda Lane McCall's Tapping at the Window. If you've seen my recent haul video, then you know about this book, but it's definitely one I'm going to be getting to this year because the antagonist is Mother Goose, who created this horrific character named Wee Willie Winky. So yes, I absolutely need to check out what this is about. Next we have The Presence by Yvonne McManus. Wonderfully chilling cover. All right, next we have Children of the Night by Margaret Bingley. Again, a really wonderful cover. Okay. Next is a book that I have wanted to add to my collection for a long time, and I'm really happy to finally have it, and that is White Spider by Joyce Wolfe. I love spider horror, so... and this is a pretty thick one here, so... definitely interested to see how this is going to turn out. Next, we have The Hallowing by Fran Pokris Yariv. Get the lighting up a little better here again. There we go. Next, we have The Train by Diane Hull. And she's written a lot of young adult fiction. Point horror, I should say, excuse me. She has written a lot of point horror books. Next was actually fresh off the mail truck yesterday, and I can't wait to read this. This looks beautiful, sounds fantastic, and this is The Wild Hunt of the Ghost Hounds by Penelope Lively. And just look at this absolutely beautiful piece of art. Oh my gosh. Stunning, 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 stunning. Very much reminds me of the cultists from Alan Wake 2, and I really wouldn't be surprised if they had some inspiration from the same sort of source material this book was written about. So yeah, look for a review of this year. I'm definitely reading that this year. Next we have Night Games by Marilyn Harris. An okay cover. I think the gray is kind of just meh. Like it feels very gloomy and just not great to look at, to be totally honest. I think the design's awesome, but I probably would have went with a different color scheme, honestly. Next we have The Sounds of Silence by Judith Richards. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Okay, I couldn't resist. Great cover, though. Next, we have The Little Nest of Nightmares by Lisa Tuttle. And this is the Paperbacks from Hell reprint, so this is much more easily available to pick up and read if anybody's interested. I believe this was a UK exclusive from, gosh, hopefully it's in here, 1986. There we go. Oh, this actually has a nice introduction from Will Erickson. Cool. I doubt he watches the channel, but yeah, well, if you're watching, hey. Alrighty, next we have The Playroom by Gloria Murphy. This is another book I have reviewed up on the channel. I loved it, honestly. I thought it was exactly what it needed to be and tried to be. But even a little bit of a step further without going into sort of the absurdity. The story is very cookie cutter as far as like the plot line where, you know, this girl who was bullied in high school moves away, transforms into this, you know, beautiful, stunning woman, comes back to town to, you know, exact her revenge on the people that bullied her. And, but what really makes the story interesting is that even though the story is very cliche as well as the characters, as far as their arcs, I should say, their exoskeleton of the character, they're still really wonderfully written characters. You know, they have their own personalities, they have their, you know, their moments and things like that. And I really enjoy that it doesn't stray from pushing the envelope when it comes to the sort of overall shock factor that comes later on in the story. But yeah, again, I have this reviewed on the channel if you want to get my full thoughts on it. But I would definitely pick this up. It's still very fairly cheap to get. And it's worth reading, honestly. I really enjoyed this one. Next, we have one of my absolutely favorite top 10 horrors of all time, and that is The Auctioneer by Joan Samson. I can never get it out quickly without saying Sampson, and it's not. It's Samson. But a wonderfully eerie cover. I love the story. The story is about this family who is living in this very rural town in New Hampshire when suddenly they have an auctioneer that comes to town and is all about improving the town. slowly but surely, our main character starts to realize things are not quite as they seem with the auctioneer, and it revolves around him basically trying to stop the town from going under, and letting the auctioneer take over. But I just really love the subtle, creeping horror that this story entails. It is a slow burn for sure, but that's the point. Is, Joan puts you in the mindset of our main characters where, things seem too good to be true at first. And then as the weeks go on, you start to see some, that's kind of peculiar. And then the next week is like, now that's definitely strange. And then as the months go by, you're like, oh, crap. Okay, something's really wrong here. But yeah, if you haven't read The Auctioneer by Joan Samson, it is an absolute must-read for any horror fan. It really encapsulates the feeling of small town horror, especially, from where I live, being only one state over from this. Hearing the names of towns that I visited and my uncle being someone who is who has sold antiques his entire life. He's dealt with a lot of auctioneers and grew up in this time period. So it's just a really wonderful story. I highly, highly recommend checking this out. And last, but absolutely not least, again, one of my absolute, not even just favorite horror novels, but one of my favorite books I've ever read. And that is Friend by Diana Henstall. Not an amazing cover, but man, is the story so good. Think Frankenstein meets Romeo and Juliet. So the story revolves around a 12-year-old boy genius named Paul, aka Piggy. After an incident that happened in his hometown and his parents divorcing, him and his mother moved to a different state to start a new life. Paul has a best friend robot that he named BB, essentially like a Wall-E before there was Wall-E. And he develops a love interest with the girl across the street from him. When she suddenly dies, he is stricken with so stricken with grief that he develops a plan to bring her back to life. And it's just really wonderfully written. The characters are amazing and very well fleshed out. There's a lot of heartbreaking scenes. The death scene explanations are horrifying in this. Like, the actual process of dying, not just like this person dies and that's it. Like, we're in this person's shoes as they're dying, and it just kind of makes me short of breath at times. Like, and the prose is fantastic, especially near the end of the book. It is some of the most beautifully written prose I've ever read. And, yeah, again, I have this reviewed on the channel if you want my full thoughts on it. But, yes, this is absolutely one I highly recommend checking out if you haven't read it. And it's nothing like that god-awful Wes Craven movie, Deadly Friend. You really need to check out the source material. It is fantastic. But yeah, that's going to be it today for me, everyone. That was some of my favorite women in horror that I've read, and just some genuine overall women in horror that are in my collection. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Feel free to leave some of your favorite women authors down in the comments below, and some of their work, so I can go ahead and check them out and add them to my own collection. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate your time. If you've made it this far, you're awesome. If you haven't, thank you so much again for giving me some of your time today. And until the next time, be kind to yourselves, everyone. Later.